The shows are talking about how, like, this is awful for America that Jimmy Kimmel was, indefinitely suspended. It's a chilling thing for the First Amendment. They're saying that on every platform. Not one person has said anything about me. Not one person on that network has said, they've all gone out of their way to say, isn't this horrible what happened to Jimmy Kimmel? And not an iota about what their employer just did to another employee.
Oh, no one remembers me. No one is talking about me. What about me? Oh. No one remembers you. No one remembers you? Who in the Rudy Poo are you? Uncle KC, my name is Matthew Dowd.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
Unbelievable. These people are unbelievable. Matthew Dowd is 64 years old. He's old enough to be my father. For some of you guys, he's old enough to be your grandfather. After 64 years on this earth, you would think Matthew Dowd had developed some self-esteem, some self-confidence. If my 8-year-old nephew is feeling neglected, I expect him to whine about it. If my 6-year-old nephew isn't getting the attention that he thinks he deserves, I expect him to cry about it. When he is stepping up to the plate in T-ball and no one is paying attention, my nephew, he will demand your attention. KK, look over here now. I'm about to hit a home run. He calls me KK instead of KC. I expect that behavior from a 6-year-old. Look at me, look at me. But when I see that behavior from a 64-year-old man, when I see that behavior from someone who is old enough to know better 40 years ago, it's absolutely pathetic. How miserable can you be? Could you be any weaker? This is a grown man who is damn near on the verge of tears. This is a grown man crying to Charlie Kirk because he is not getting the attention that he thinks he deserves. Why in the hell would anyone care about some unknown doofus getting fired from MSNBC? For starters, Matthew Dowd, he deserved to get fired. What he said about Charlie Kirk while he was still fighting for his life, it was absolutely repulsive. I don't even know why Charlie Kirk is giving him a platform. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they are starved for attention. The last 5 years, I feel like we have been living through Revenge of the Nerds. It's been decades since I have seen that movie. Hell, it came out before I was even born. But I remember a scene in the movie. I think it was Ted McGinley, who played the next door neighbor to Al Bundy in Married with Children. He writes a message on a rock and he throws the rock through the nerd's window. The message on the rock says, "Nerds, get out." That's how deacons at Woke United Methodist used to be treated. They were the outcast in high school. They were the kids that were never invited to the parties. And if they did get invited to the party, they were given the wrong address. But over the last 5, maybe 10 years, the nerds have been emboldened. They have hidden behind their fake victim status. They've used tolerance as weakness. They've taken advantage of your emotions. I was picked on because I was shaving my beard in the women's restroom. Please feel sorry for me. Over the last 5 years, the nerds have been out for revenge, and one of their leaders is the super nerd AOC LGBT. Yesterday, the House passed a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk, passed with bipartisan support with a vote of 310 to 58. Believe it or not, almost 100 Democrats voted in support of the resolution honoring Charlie Kirk, which is great. That's definitely good to see. But the problem is, and this is always the problem, it's the vocal minority. It's the outcast. It's the people infected with the woke fungus who always seek and destroy. I'm sure you'll be surprised to know that Rashid Tlaib voted against it. So did Omar Elon and the increasingly insufferable Maxine Waters. Max Waters is almost 90 years old. She was born in the latter stages of the Great Depression. She has been in Congress almost as long as Uncle Casey has been alive. Am I the only one who sees the problem in that? The outcasts were led yesterday by their fearless leader, AOC LGBT. As expected, ABC took this as an opportunity to smear Charlie Kirk. Translation: LGB took this as an opportunity to lie. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Today on the second channel, I'm going to be talking about the ongoing embarrassment that ESPN refers to as an NFL analyst. Mina Kimes is once again playing the role of the ultimate victim. This week, she was interviewed by one of the AI bots at Woke Illustrated, and Mina whined and complained about how difficult it is to be a woman in sports media who is overpaid $2 million every year for a job she's not qualified for. If you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. There were 58 people who voted no yesterday for the resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. Unsurprisingly, all 58 were Democrats, and 42 of the 58 were members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Our emotions won't allow us to support this resolution. Charlie Kirk was against the Civil Rights Act, and this resolution does nothing to lower the temperature of political discourse. I find it ironic that Democrats are suddenly defenders of free speech and they're suddenly advocates for lowering the temperature of political discourse. Correct me if I'm wrong here. Wasn't it deacons at Woke United Methodist, along with their pretend friends in the mainstream media, in the last 10 years, weren't they mostly responsible for preheating the oven? I seem to remember them referring to Trump supporters as racist or fascist. I seem to remember them claiming that the Trumper was a threat to democracy. Or my all-time personal favorite, Orange Man bad! But all of a sudden, when parishioners at Woke United Methodist are being fired from their jobs, when the pawns are being kicked off social media, kicked out of school for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, when the pawns are finally being held accountable, all of a sudden, the deacons want to lower the temperature. All of a sudden, they are defenders of free speech. They weren't defending free speech when conservatives were being silenced. They weren't defending speech when normal people were demonized for having the audacity to want criminals in jail. Like I keep saying, there is no more tolerance. We have tried working with them. We have tried giving them grace. There is no negotiating with the woke fungus. Yesterday, AOC, it's easy as LGB, it's simple as TQI, LGBTQI men can become girls. Yesterday, AOC addressed the House and took the opportunity to tarnish the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Watch for yourself.
The majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today. We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant. And accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans.
You know, they're trying to insinuate, they're trying to frame Charlie Kirk as a racist because of comments he made about the Civil Rights Act. But if you really listen to his comments, if you listen to the full context, you'll realize that Charlie Kirk's comments had nothing to do with race and everything to do with the government doing what they always do best, fucking everything up. When the Civil Rights Act was passed, it was sold to the American people as minor legislative changes, adjustments. Basically, it was sold as segregation and discrimination based on race being evil and wrong, which is great. That's great. But like most government programs, what was started under the guise of good intentions turned into something problematic. According to Charlie Kirk, the Civil Rights Act set up a permanent deep state of bureaucrats that were looking for racism where it did not exist. Does that sound familiar? It eventually led to quotas and hiring practices based on race, which the Civil Rights Act was supposedly designed to prevent. And then it expanded into LGBT issues. It expanded into influencing people to taste the rainbow. Back in the 1980s, my parents applied for jobs at the post office. Now, all applicants were given a test, of course. The test wasn't graded fairly. You see, because of the Civil Rights Act and affirmative action, the post office had racial quotas. For example, if Walter White made a 97 on the test and Teresa Black made a 90, if the equity quota had an opening for a Black female and the post office already had too many white men, Teresa was given the job over Walter. Now, that's just a very basic example, but you get the point. That was 40 years ago. Let me ask you something. How efficient is the post office? If you need to send a package and you need it to arrive in 2 days, are you trusting the post office? Or are you trusting UPS, FedEx, DHL? I could send a stamped envelope to my neighbor across the street. It would take the post office a week to deliver it. According to Charlie Kirk, the Civil Rights Act was flawed not because of its intention, but because of the end result. It set up a system where it wasn't just the government's job to say discrimination is wrong. The government took it upon themselves to try to legislate outcomes. They tried to even things up under the guise of equity. The Civil Rights Act was passed over 60 years ago. You tell me, did it work? Did the Civil Rights Act prevent racism or create more racism? Has diversity and equity made things more efficient? Has the federal government been successful in legislating behavior? Was Charlie Kirk a racist because he had the audacity to point this out? You might still disagree with Charlie Kirk, and that's fine. That's fine. But now, at least you have the full context. At least you have the full story to make your own opinion. That's the problem with with the mainstream media. That's the problem with deacons at Woke United Methodist. They never give you the full story, the full context. Their goal is to manipulate and indoctrinate. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.